The recreation chamber aboard the warship Stellar Claw hummed with the sound of young alien soldiers sharing stories during their rest cycle. Their iridescent scales glinted under the soft blue lighting as they lounged on comfort pads, enjoying their brief respite from duties. "And then," said First Scout Smith, his antenna twitching with amusement, "I heard these humans actually believe they can fight with missing limbs. Can you imagine something so absurd?" Laughter rippled through the group, their bodies, perfectly evolved for combat with reinforced exoskeletons and redundant organ systems, made such claims seem ridiculous. Officer Reed clicked his mandibles in derision. "That's nothing. Yesterday I was reading their historical archives. They have tales of warriors fighting for days without rest, as if any biological entity could maintain combat effectiveness without proper regeneration cycles." In the corner of the chamber, Commander Gray sat quietly, his weathered exoskeleton bearing the marks of countless battles. Deep grooves and poorly healed fractures told stories of their own, but he remained silent as the young soldiers continued their mockery. "My favorite," chirped Medical Officer Stone, "is their claim about something called adrenaline, letting them lift vehicles to save their young. Pure fantasy. The mechanical force required would shatter their primitive calcium-based skeletal structure." The younger aliens shared another round of clicking laughter, their bodies vibrating with mirth. They were the pride of the Galactic Defense Force, each genetically enhanced and cybernetically optimized for warfare. The idea that soft-bodied humans could match their capabilities seemed like a joke. "Did you know?" added Engineer Rock, waving his upper limbs excitedly. "They don't even have backup organs. Just one heart, two lungs, and if they lose them, that's it. How did they even make it to space?" Commander Gray shifted slightly, his scarred hand unconsciously moving to touch the synthetic replacement for his lower right limb. The movement caught Medical Officer Stone's attention. "Commander," Stone asked, his voice carrying a note of respect, "you've been awfully quiet. Surely you find these human myths as amusing as we do." The chamber grew still. Gray was a legend among their forces, having served in over 50 campaigns. His presence alone commanded attention, and now all eyes turned to him. Gray's outer membranes flickered, a sign of deep thought among their species. "Myths," he said finally, his voice carrying the gravelly tone of age, "often contain kernels of truth." The young soldiers exchanged glances. Engineer Rock's antenna drooped slightly, a sign of confusion. "But Commander, surely you don't believe." "What I believe," Gray interrupted, "is based on experience, not archives or second-hand tales." He straightened up, his full height impressive even among their tall species. "You mock what you don't understand. And that is dangerous for warriors." First Scout Smith leaned forward, his curiosity overtaking his earlier amusement. "Commander, have you? Have you actually fought humans?" The scared veteran's outer membranes flickered again, and this time the younger aliens noticed something they hadn't before. A slight tremor in his movements when the subject of humans came up. Was that fear? "Fought them." Gray's voice grew quieter, forcing them to lean in. "Yes, I've fought humans. And I'll tell you something, young ones. There's a reason we have peace treaties with them now. There's a reason why our high command strictly enforces those treaties." The recreation chamber grew so quiet that the hum of the ship's engines seemed loud in comparison. The earlier mockery felt suddenly childish as they watched their decorated commander's reaction. Would you tell us about it, sir?" Medical Officer Stone asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Commander Gray looked at each of them in turn, his compound eyes reflecting the blue light. The young soldiers felt the weight of his gaze, heavy with experiences they couldn't imagine. "Perhaps it's time you learned the truth about humans," he said finally. "But I warn you, after this, you won't find their capabilities funny anymore." The young aliens gathered closer, their earlier laughter forgotten. As Commander Gray prepared to share his story, none of them realized that their understanding of warfare and their place in the galaxy was about to change forever. Commander Gray's outer membranes flickered as he began his tale, his voice carrying Grulian Jure, the weight of memories he'd rather forget. It was 30 cycles ago, during the expansion wars. My unit was considered elite, the best of the best. We'd never failed a mission, never lost a fight. Our bodies were perfectly engineered for combat, and we knew it. Pride was our first mistake. Mericers. The young soldiers listened intently as their commander continued. We received orders to investigate a small human research outpost on the outer rim. Intelligence suggested it was lightly defended, just a handful of scientists with basic security. Our mission was simple: capture their technology and any survivors for study. We thought it would be easy. Mericers. Gray's lower limbs shifted uncomfortably. There were 12 of us, dropping from orbit in stealth pods. The human facility sat in a clearing surrounded by dense vegetation. They had basic perimeter sensors, but nothing that could detect our advanced cloaking technology. We watched them for 3 days. Mericer. He paused, his compound eyes dimming slightly. They seemed so fragile, soft-skinned creatures, going about their work. No natural armor, no backup organs, no enhanced strength modifications. We saw them eating, sleeping, working. Such an inefficient species, we thought. How wrong we were. Mericers. Mericer. The recreation chamber remained silent as Gray continued. On the 4th day, we launched our attack at dawn. Everything went perfectly at first. We breached their perimeter without triggering any alarms. Our first target was their communications array. One precise shot, and they were cut off from help. But then, Gray's voice grew tenser. We encountered our first human defender, a single guard caught in the open by 3 of our warriors. They shot him. Clean hits right through his torso. By all logic, he should have fallen immediately. The young soldiers leaned forward, their earlier mockery forgotten. Instead, Gray continued. This human, with holes in his body that would have killed any of us instantly, raised his weapon and shot back. He killed 2 of our warriors before the 3rd could finish him. We lost 2 elite soldiers to what should have been a dead man. Medical Officer Stone's antennae twitched in disbelief. But that's impossible. With wounds like that, the blood loss alone, impossible. Gray interrupted. We thought so too, but it was just the beginning. The gunfire had alerted the facility. We expected panic, chaos. Instead, we got organization, precision. These scientists, these supposedly soft researchers, moved like trained warriors. They had hidden weapons caches throughout the facility. Combat armor appeared from behind false panels. These weren't just scientists. They were military personnel disguised as researchers. But that wasn't what shocked us most. Commander Gray's scared hand traced the synthetic replacement for his lower right limb. We shot them, again and again, and they kept fighting. One human took a plasma bolt to the arm. The limb was practically vaporized. She cauterized it herself with a hot piece of metal and kept firing with her remaining arm. The young alien shifted uncomfortably as their commander continued. Another human had his legs shattered by our heavy weapons. He dried himself to a defensive position and held it for 20 minutes, taking down 3 more of our warriors before bleeding out. We'd never seen anything like it. By the time we secured half the facility, we'd lost 7 of our 12-member team, 7 elite warriors against what we thought were simple scientists. And then, Gray's voice trailed off. Then what, Commander? First Scout Smith whispered. Then we met their security chief, a human male who would teach me the true meaning of terror. But that's the next part of the story. Gray fell silent, his gaze distant. The young soldiers looked at each other, their earlier confidence shaken. The human myths they'd laughed at earlier didn't seem so funny anymore. Would you like to hear what happened next? Gray asked quietly. About how one human warrior changed everything I thought I knew about combat. The recreation chamber filled with eager nods, even as a subtle tremor ran through their bodies. They were about to learn why their commander, one of the most decorated veterans in their forces, still carried the scars, both physical and mental, of his encounter with humanity.